My name is Claire Morgan, and I'm 31 years old. On paper, I'm the kind of woman loan officers relax around. I make them lean back in their chairs, loosen their ties, and say, "You're exactly the kind of client we like to see." I'm a project manager. My entire job is to look at a list of demands, a budget, and a timeline, and tell people what is actually possible. I deal in constraints and trade-offs. I turn chaos into Gantt charts. I can make a lot of things happen, but I cannot make miracles. For a long time, my personal life looked just as neat as my spreadsheets. I shared a 2-bedroom apartment with my boyfriend Well. At the time I called him my fiancé Aaron. I handled the bills, the lease, the calendar. We'd been together 4 years, engaged for 6 months. The wedding was in 60 days. The venue was booked, the caterer chosen. We were in that weird pre-wedding limbo where everything is paid deposit, pending final invoice. Our lease on the apartment was due to end 30 days after the honeymoon. The plan was simple: roll from wedding into a 3-bedroom house rental with a small yard and a garage. The next step, the logical progression, it all lived in a color-coded spreadsheet. I should have caught the red flags sooner. Aaron's parents, Annette and Bernard, had always been very involved. Lots of suggestions that sounded less like advice and more like instructions. Bernard fancied himself a financial wizard despite a string of short-lived consulting gigs. Annette simply expected things to materialize around her. I told myself it was normal future-in-law friction. I told myself boundaries could be negotiated later. Last Thursday, Aaron sat me down in our living room. He had that "we need to talk" look that ties your stomach into a knot before anyone says a word. "Claire," he began, eyes a little too bright, voice a little too careful. "I'm so glad we're getting the 3-bedroom. Me too," I said, relaxing a fraction. That one with the finished basement looks promising. I'm just waiting to hear back on the application. "Yeah, about that." He took a breath, and the air in the room changed. "I need you to add 2 more names to the application." I blinked. "What?" "Like references." He actually laughed. "No. Baba. As to know. My parents, they're going to be moving in with us." For a second, I honestly thought I'd misheard him. A record didn't just scratch in my mind, it shattered. "I'm sorry, what I asked. A 3-bedroom house. 5 adults. Where? How?" "Oh. It's easy," he said. Too breezy. Like he'd practiced this speech in the mirror. "They can take the master suite since they're older. We'll have the 2nd bedroom. And the 3rd one can be our office. It'll be so fun. Like a big family house." There was a buzzing in my ears. I tried to stay rational. In the way I do in meetings. When someone demands 5 months of work in 2 weeks, "Aaron," I said carefully, "we are about to be newlyweds. We're not giving up the master bedroom in our own home. And your parents have their own place. Why would they move in with us?" He sighed. And I watched his whole expression shift like he was pulling on a different mask. Suddenly, he looked wounded. "Put upon. Bernard's consulting has been slow," he said. "They're behind on the mortgage. They're going to lose the house. They have nowhere else to go. They're my family. Claire, they need us." My pulse thudded in my throat. "And you didn't think to mention any of this before I asked. We've been house hunting for months. I am mentioning it, he said, a little edge creeping into his voice. We're talking about it now. No, I replied, my voice flattening into something calm and dangerous. You're not asking. You're telling me what's going to happen. You're giving me an ultimatum. He stood up, mask slipping again, warmth draining from his eyes. I saw something hard underneath that I'd never wanted to see. Yes, he said. I am. My parents are moving in with us. They are my blood. It's non-negotiable. Non-negotiable. In project management, that word has teeth. It doesn't mean strong preference. It means fixed constraint. You don't argue with it. You either restructure the entire project around it, or you kill the project. I looked at the man I was supposed to marry, the man who had just, without consulting me, consigned me to a life where I wasn't even the main character in my own home. I would be the supporting cast. The walking wallet, the woman in the second bedroom while his failed consultant father slept in the master suite I'd be paying for. Something in me went very, very quiet. The hurt. The anger, they didn't explode. They condensed, like steam turning to ice. All the spinning thoughts slotted into place with terrifying clarity. I nodded slowly. I even managed a small, sad smile. I understand, I said softly. He visibly relaxed. Oh, Claire. I knew you'd get it, he said, reaching for my hand. I absolutely do, I replied. Family comes first. He smiled, satisfied, already scrolling through his phone, again, as if the matter were settled. I'm going to go process this, I said, standing. Make some calls. Adjust the plan. Okay, he chirped, back to his usual self. Now that he had what he wanted, I'll order us food. I walked down the short hall to the second bedroom, my office. I closed the door behind me, pressed my back against it, and just breathed for 10 full minutes. A 4-year relationship doesn't evaporate without pain. My chest hurt. My throat hurt. But the decision itself, that was easy. The project parameters had changed. They were impossible. Time to liquidate. First, I called the realtor. Hey, Janet. It's Claire, I said, when she picked up. Listen. Something's come up. We have to pull our application on the 3-bedroom house. All of them. Actually, she was quiet for a beat. Are you sure? You two seemed excited. We were, I said, but the wedding is off. It was the first time I said it out loud. It sliced through me. But it also felt correct. Like deleting a corrupted file before it kills the whole system. Second, I pulled up our current lease. Joint lease. Terminates October 31st. Requires 30 days notice to vacate. It was September 1st. Perfect. I drafted an email to the property management company, per the terms of our lease. Please accept this as our formal 30-day notice to vacate. We will be fully moved out by midnight, September 30th. I sent it. CCDR on. Third. I opened a new browser tab and searched studio apartments in a neighborhood across town. Closer to my actual office, I found a brand new building with small, efficient studios around 450 square feet. Expensive per square foot, but I didn't need space. I needed distance. I filled out the application. I put down the deposit, Just my name. Lease start date, September 15th. 4th, the wedding. I opened our shared spreadsheet. Venue, $10. 000 deposit. Paid from my savings. Non-refundable. Katir fim. 000 deposit. Also my account. Non-refundable. DJ. Flowers. Photographer. Those were on his card. So I was personally in, for $15? 000 that I would never see again. I stared at the number. I thought about the life I was about to escape me. Aaron. Annette. And Bernard crammed into a house where my money paid the bills, and my opinion didn't matter. 15 yuan. 000. Suddenly looked like a bargain. A brutal. Necessary exit fee. I sent the emails. To whom it may concern, I'm writing to inform you that the Morgan Vance wedding on date is cancelled. We understand all deposits are non-refundable per our contract. Then there was the stupid, symbolic piece, the artifact. We'd commissioned a custom built-in style media console for the new house. A $7,000 walnut and steel behemoth. I'd already paid a $3. 000 non-refundable deposit to the woodworker. I dialed his number with a grim little smile. Hey. It's Claire. I said when he answered. Bad news. The move isn't happening. And the wedding is off. We have to cancel the console. He sounded genuinely sympathetic. Claire. I'm really sorry to hear that. The deposit is non-refundable. I've already bought the wood. I know, I said. I'm prepared to lose it. Just cancel the build. Please don't deliver it to anyone. Anywhere. Under my name. You sure? It's going to be a beautiful piece. I'm sure, I said. I'm moving into a studio. It won't fit. By the time I ended the last call, my hands were shaking. I'd just set fire to over $20. 000 between wedding deposits, the console, and the new lease deposit, the cost of freedom. I told myself, freedom is rarely on sale. When I walked back out into the living room, Aaron was on the couch, scrolling through his phone, smiling at something on his screen. Hey, food's on the way, he said, not looking up. You okay now? We need to talk, I said. Sitting across from him, he frowned, finally locking his phone. What now? I just got off the phone with the realtor. I said, I canceled our applications for the house. His smile vanished. What? Why? We can just find a 4-bedroom or... I also gave our 30-day notice for this apartment. I continued. We have to be out by September 30th. His voice shot up an octave. Claire. What is wrong with you? You can't just do that. We'll be homeless. Where are we supposed to go? There it was again. The we that assumed we were still on the same team. That's the thing. Aaron, I said quietly. We won't be going anywhere. He stared at me like I'd started speaking another language. I'm moving out on the 15th. I said. I just signed a lease on a studio apartment. Just for me. He went still. I've never seen anyone go that still. What did you say? He whispered. You said your parents moving in with us was non-negotiable. I replied. I heard you. You made a unilateral decision about my home, my finances, and my future. So I'm making one. 2. The wedding is off. I've already canceled the venue and the caterer. The tears came fast and hot. Anger bleeding into them. You're breaking up with me because I want to take care of my family, he spat. I'm breaking up with you. I said, because you and your parents decided to turn me into your personal retirement plan without even asking me. You gave me an ultimatum. I made my choice. You can't do this, he shouted. Where am I supposed to go? You've kicked me out. No, I said. Standing. I'm moving out. This is a joint lease. We're both responsible for vacating by the 30th. You, Annette, and Bernard have 29 days to figure out where to live. That's your project to manage. He went from crying to screaming, cycling through insults. Monster. Sociopath. Heartless. I let the words roll off me like rain. I'm going for a drive. I said finally. I'll be back later to pack some things. As I picked up my keys, my phone buzzed. An email notification popped up. Aaron, forwarding the lease termination letter to his father. Subject line, fix this. I looked at those 2 words and felt the faintest hint of grim foreshadowing. Bernard would try to fix this. All right. He had no idea I'd already started dismantling the entire project. I didn't go for a drive. I drove to a coffee shop, ordered something I barely tasted, and stared at my phone for an hour, watching the little read receipts pop up as my emails detonated one by one. By the time I went home that night, the silence between Aaron and me was thick enough to choke on. He didn't ask where I'd been. I didn't ask what he'd been doing. We moved around each other like strangers, sharing a hotel room. A week later, I'm writing this from my new studio. It's 450 square feet of quiet. The couch from our old place, my couch, that I paid for barely fits. But it fits. My bed is a mattress on the floor for now. Half of my things are in storage. My life is suddenly condensed into boxes, shelves, and a single narrow closet. It should feel like a downgrade. Instead, it feels like the first time in months I can breathe without asking permission. Moving out took 3 days, September 14th to 16th. 3 days of packing, while Aaron cycled through phases, like my own personal hurricane. The first 48 hours were just noise. Crying, yelling, slamming doors. He followed me from room to room, demanding explanations he'd already heard. Claire, you're overreacting, he said at one point, blocking the hallway as I tried to carry a box. We can make this work. My parents don't have to take the master suite. They can have the second bedroom. We'll build a wall in the living room and, Aaron. I cut in, setting the box down. Stop. He stared at me, searching my face for some crack of softness he could wedge himself into. It's not about the floor plan, I said quietly. It's about the way you tried to force this on me. It's over. I am leaving. His eyes went glassy with rage. So you'd rather burn 20 grand than let my parents live with us, he snapped. Do you hear how selfish that sounds? I picked up the box again. I hear how expensive freedom sounds. I said, it's worth every penny. Then the negotiation started. Not with me, with his parents. Annette was the first to call. My phone lit up with her name as I was bubble wrapping dishes. I stared at the screen for a full 30 seconds before answering. Hi, Annette. I said, Claire. Dear, she cooed, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding. I almost laughed. Of course that was the script. A misunderstanding, I repeated. Aaron told us you overreacted. She said, we're all just so worried. We're family. You can't just throw us out onto the street. I'm not throwing anyone out, I said, keeping my voice neutral. I'm moving out. Our lease is ending. Aaron has a job. You and Bernard can find a new place together. The sugar in her tone vanished so fast it gave me whiplash. You selfish little brat. She hissed. We've been planning this for months. Bernard already sold our house. The sale closes next week. We have nowhere to go because of you. The plate in my hand nearly slipped from my fingers. You sold your house, I said slowly. When? Months ago? She snapped. We have been liquidating and planning our move. Aaron promised us. He said you were on board? You're ruining our retirement. We are going to be homeless because you changed your mind. The room tilted. Just a little. Annette, I said, voice flat. You sold your house before you had another one lined up, based on a conversation you never actually had with me. That's not my problem. That's yours. You ungrateful. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Not from guilt, from the sheer audacity. This wasn't a last-minute crisis. This had been a long, slow setup. Months in the making. They had been quietly dismantling their own life, under the assumption that I would catch them, and I hadn't even been told. I sank down on the edge of the half-disassembled bed, staring at the wall. The puzzle pieces snapped together one by one, the casual comments about how big the new house should be. The way Bernard kept asking about neighborhoods with good public transit for older people. Annette's offhand remarks about not wanting to deal with lawn care anymore. They hadn't been daydreams. They'd been a plan where I was the unconsulted financier. By the time Aaron came home that night, I was calm in that way that comes after a hurricane, the eerie stillness after everything that could be ripped loose has already torn away. He stepped into the bedroom, saw the boxes stacked to the ceiling, and went straight to pleading mode. Claire, please, he said, voice raw. Just think about it. The venue said maybe they can transfer the date. We can postpone. We don't have to cancel. We already canceled. I reminded him. You saw the email. They won't give us the deposit back. He said, as if I didn't know. That's $10,000. You have to call them. Tell them it was a family emergency. Tell them we're postponing. They said they might credit it. I'm not lying. I said, we are not postponing. The engagement is over. He stared at me like I'd just stabbed him. That's our money. Claire, he said hoarsely. You're just burning it. You're lighting 15 grand on fire just to spite me. You'd rather lose that than let my parents live with us. How arrogant can you be? It's not about arrogance. I replied. It's about cost. I'm paying $15,000 to not be your family's retirement plan. It's the best deal I've ever made. I expected him to scream. Instead, he laughed a short, bitter bark with no humor in it. You'll regret this. He spat. You think you're so smart. You have no idea what you just did. He stormed out. I listened to the door slam, then resumed packing. 2 days later, my phone rang again. Unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail. But something in my gut said answer. Hello. Hey. Claire. It's Doan. From Craftsman's Workshop. My stomach dropped. Hi. I said carefully. Is everything okay? He cleared his throat. Weird question. I just got off the phone with Aaron. Of course. Oh, I said, my voice going cold. What did he say? He told me you two had made up. Dawn said. sounding awkward. Said the wedding was back on and the move was happening after all. He was very insistent. He wanted to pay the $4,000 balance right now on his father's credit card and asked me to change the delivery address to his parents' house. I closed my eyes. What I asked? Even though I knew exactly what Don had just described, he said you were too emotional to make the calls. Don continued, almost apologetic, that he was cleaning things up. But the thing is, your name's on the invoice. You paid the deposit. I told him I couldn't change the delivery address or payment details without checking with you first. That's when he got kind of nasty. Said I was breaching contract. That his father's an accountant. That they'd ruin my business if I didn't cooperate. My hand tightened around the phone. They weren't just entitled. The second I cut off the money supply, they slid straight into lies and attempted fraud. Done. I said quietly. Thank you for calling me. No problem, he replied. I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page. I don't want to get caught in the middle of whatever this is. We are absolutely not back together. I said, the wedding is not happening. Please, 100% cancel the order. I understand the deposit is gone. I do not want that console built. And under no circumstances should it be delivered to Aaron or his parents. Understood, he said. I'll send you a confirmation email. For what it's worth, you're not the first person I've seen get pressured like this when money's on the table. I'm sorry you're going through it. Me too, I said softly. But I'm glad you called. When I hung up, I just sat there in the middle of my half-empty living room. A phone, still in my hand. It wasn't just that they'd tried to stick me with their housing problem. It wasn't just that they'd sold their house behind my back. Assuming I'd saved them, the moment I cut off their access to my money, Aaron had tried to reroute a $7,000 piece of custom furniture paid for with my deposit to his parents' address, using a card that probably couldn't cover the charge. He would have flipped it for cash and left my name on the invoice. If Don hadn't called me, he might have pulled it off. I blocked Aaron's number. Then I blocked Annette's. Then I scrolled through my messages, found every text thread that had been used to pressure me into being reasonable, and archived them like old project notes, documentation for a job I was done doing. I knew this wasn't over. People like Bernard don't accept. No. They escalate. They reframe. They look for leverage. As I lay on the mattress on my studio floor that night, staring at the ceiling, the quiet felt heavier than usual. Somewhere across town, Aaron was forwarding my decisions to his father with a subject line that said, "Fix this." And Bernard was already deciding exactly how much my freedom was going to cost. 3 weeks later, I was finally starting to breathe again. The studio felt less like a storage locker and more like a home. I'd bought a real bed frame, a small dining table, and one plant I kept remembering to water every night. I came home to silence, the kind that didn't demand explanations, or compromise, or emotional damage control. It should have been peace. But peace doesn't last when the people you cut loose think you still owe them. The first sign came from friends. Not close friends, mutuals. The kind who stay in the group chat out of inertia. Hey, Claire. One message began. Heard things are rough. I know Aaron's parents were in a tough spot. But kicking out an older couple, kinda harsh. Don't you think? I stared at the screen. I could practically hear Annette's voice behind the words. I typed a reply. Calm and concise. Like a project status report. Aaron gave me a non-negotiable ultimatum that his parents, who had already sold their house without telling me, were moving into our home. When I refused, he tried to steal a $7. 000 piece of furniture I paid for by committing credit card fraud in my name. The relationship is over. I hit send. Read receipts popped up. Then, silence. A few others texted similar variations. Maybe you overreacted. Couldn't you just help them out temporarily? Each time. I copy-pasted my response. Each time. The typing bubbles disappeared and never came back. And for about a week, it seemed like the storm had passed. Then, I got the letter. It arrived, certified mail cream envelope. Board sheriff font. My name typed, dead, center, like a summons. The sender Bernard Vance. Financial consultant. My stomach knotted. I sat on the edge of my tiny table and opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a 4-page letter, an itemized demand for compensation. It looked like something out of a bad courtroom drama. Complete with legalese, he must have Googled. I read the first line 3 times before it sank in. Pursuant to the dissolution of the domestic partnership between my client, Mr. Aaron Vance, and yourself, you are hereby liable for damages and compensation, as detailed below. He'd written it like he was Aaron's lawyer. His own father, representing his son against me. Each line was worse than the last. Emotional labor and household management, $2. 500 divided by month, times 48 months, equals $120. Ling ling, ling. Damages for breach of promise, wedding $50. Ling ling ling. Reimbursement for non-refundable wedding expenses. Aaron's, half $4. Lambe, acquisition fee. For the cancelled media console, $7. Ling ling ling. Total. Demande $181. Lambe. At the bottom, failure to remit payment within 10 business days will result in immediate pursuit of legal remedies and the filing of liens against your assets. I couldn't breathe. It wasn't just absurd, it was terrifying. He had my full name. My new address. He was threatening to come after me for nearly $200,000. My hands shook so badly, I nearly dropped the pages. For an hour, I just sat there at my little dining table, staring at the wall, fighting the urge to cry, or throw up, or both. I'd been careful, methodical, professional about the breakup. And now, I was being dragged into some bizarre pseudo-legal extortion scheme by the man who wanted to live in my house rent-free. Then I did what I always do when a project spirals out of control. I made a list. Panic completed. Confirm, threat is real. Consult expert. Respond strategically. I called my uncle. David. He's a corporate lawyer, not family law. Not civil, but he's the kind of person who can smell BS from 2 counties away. He answered on the second ring. Hey, kiddo. What's up, Uncle David? I said. Voice unsteady. I just got a letter from my ex's father. He's demanding $181. 200 for emotional labor and breach of promise. There was silence. For a moment, I thought the line had dropped. Then, faintly, I heard wheezing. Not shock laughter. Claire. He gasped between breaths. Please, please, tell me you're exaggerating. I wish I was. I said, reading the list out loud. He couldn't even let me finish before he lost it. Emotional labor acquisition fee for a console, oh my god. This is art. This is performance. This man should be teaching satire at a law school. I let out a weak laugh that turned into something close to tears. So, I'm not actually being sued. No, he said, firmly. Voice shifting from amusement to reassurance. Claire, what you have is not a lawsuit. It's an intimidation letter written by a narcissist with a printer. None of those claims are enforceable. Breach of promise, that's barely a thing in this state. And you can't bill someone for emotional labor. That's not law, it's fan fiction. I exhaled shakily. So what do I do? Let me handle it, he said. You'll want a paper trail. I'll send a response on firm letterhead that'll make him wish he'd stayed retired. 2 days later, he forwarded me a copy. It was short, elegant, nuclear, to Mr. Bernard Vance. Your letter to my client, Ms. Claire Morgan, has been received. It is legally baseless, frivolous, and appears to constitute a bad faith attempt at criminal extortion. All claims are rejected in full. Furthermore, we have obtained a sworn affidavit from the woodworker at Craftsman's Workshop detailing your son's attempted credit card fraud and false representation of ownership regarding a $7,000 media console. Any further contact, threats, or demands directed at my client will result in immediate police reports and a petition for a restraining order against you. Your wife? And your son, govern yourselves accordingly. I read it 3 times, smiling a little wider. Each pass, that phrase, govern yourselves accordingly, was the legal world's version of try me. And just like that, the noise stopped. No more texts, no more emails, no more mutual friend pity messages. Just silence. A week later, Uncle David called. Not a peep from them, he said, clearly pleased. That letter probably scared them half to death. Bernard's probably Googling, "Can I be arrested for extortion as we speak?" I laughed for real that time. You think it's over? Not quite, he said. People like that, they always want the last word. They'll show up one more time. Just be ready. He was right, because 2 weeks later, during my final walkthrough of the old apartment, I saw them, Adon, Annette, Bernard, and a U-Haul full of junk. The parking lot looked like a yard sale nobody wanted to buy from. A broken lamp leaned against a stained mattress, trash bags half split open, a U-Haul idling beside a pile of what used to be someone's life. And there they were, Aaron, standing beside the truck, his shoulders hunched, Annette, arms crossed, glaring daggers, Bernard, pacing like a man rehearsing his rage. For one surreal moment, I thought they were waiting for someone else. Then Aaron saw me. His eyes widened like I'd caught him in the middle of something shameful. He started walking toward me fast. Claire. Wait. I stayed by my car door. What are you doing here? He gestured helplessly toward the pile. We have to talk. You have to let us back in. Back in, I repeated. Annette's voice cut through the air. Brittle and shrill. They won't let us rent anywhere. The sale on our house closed last week. Bernard's credit is a mess. And your lawyer ruined his prospects. We have nowhere to go. I blinked at her. Annette, you sold your home before you had another one? That's not my fault. Bernard marched forward, his face red. It's absolutely your fault. You destroyed our family. After that letter your shyster lawyer sent. Every one of my clients pulled out. You've sabotaged my reputation. Your reputation, I said evenly. I was built on threatening people for money. My lawyer didn't ruin it. He just exposed it. He took another step forward. You're going to regret this. Bernard? My tone dropped low. Sharp. If you take one more step toward me, I will call the police right now. He froze. Annette's mouth snapped shut. Even Aaron flinched. The sound of tires on gravel broke the standoff. A gray sedan pulled in. The property manager, Trish, a no-nonsense woman with a clipboard and an expression that said she'd seen every kind of nonsense twice. She got out of her car, looked from the U-Haul to the trash heap, then at me. Ms. Morgan, here, I said quietly. She nodded once, then turned to the others. Folks, what's going on here? You were supposed to be fully vacated by midnight last night. Annette jumped in before anyone else could. It's her fault. She pointed at me like a child, tattling. She kicked us out. Ruined our plans. And now we have nowhere to go. Trish raised an eyebrow. That may be, she said. But your lease ended yesterday. You're trespassing. And you've left all this trash behind. I'm going to have to charge for removal and apply daily penalties until this is cleared. Bernard puffed up, ready for a fight. You can't charge us, we're victims here. Trish didn't even blink. You're tenants who overstayed your lease. Victims or not? Those are the terms. You'll be billed accordingly. Annette's voice cracked. You can't do this to us. Trish Sahil, already pulling out her phone. If you don't move this by the end of the day, I'll have to call the police to have you trespassed. That word police did what reason never could. All three of them went still. Aaron turned to me then. Desperation, softening his anger. Claire, please, he said quietly. Just for a few nights. We're in a motel right now. It's filthy. I'll pay you back. Just help us cover the cost for a week until we figure something out. He looked so small. So different from the man who once told me his parents were non-negotiable. For a brief second, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then I remembered how he'd tried to steal from me. How his parents had plotted to live off my income. How they'd mocked me when I said no. And how, through all of it, not one of them had ever said, I'm sorry. They'd only ever said, fix this. I shook my head. No. Aaron. I can't. He blinked. Confused. You can't. Or you won't. I won't. I said softly. Family comes first. Remember, you've got yours. Go take care of them. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Trish stepped forward, clipboard in hand. Ms. Morgan, let's finish the walkthrough. I followed her into the building. The apartment was hollow, echoing two different lives, stripped down to bare walls. My side was spotless. The other side looked like a storm had passed through. Trish glanced around, checked boxes on her sheet, then smiled faintly. You're good to go. Ms. Morgan, refund for your portion of the deposit will be mailed next week. Thank you, I said, signing the last page. When we stepped back outside, the U-Haul was still there. Aaron and his parents were arguing near the dumpster. Voices rising and falling, like wind. For the first time, I didn't feel anger or fear or guilt, just distance. They weren't my problem anymore. They were three people trapped in the web, they'd spun themselves entitlement, lease, and bad math. I got in my car. Trish waved. The sky had started turning gold. The kind of late afternoon light that makes everything look softer than it really is. As I drove away, I caught one last glimpse in the rearview mirror. Aaron yelling, Annette crying, Bernard trying to take charge of nothing. I turned the corner and let them disappear from sight. The next morning, I woke up in my studio to sunlight slicing through the blinds. The air was still, quiet, mine. I brewed coffee, sat at my tiny table, opened my laptop. On my screen, a new spreadsheet weighted rows empty. Cells clean. No shared accounts. No wedding tabs. No ooze. Just a single header. At the top, Project Claire Morgan, Phase 1. Freedom had cost me more than $20,000. But every cent had bought me something priceless: peace. I'd managed plenty of projects in my career. But this one was personal. And for the first time in years, it was going exactly according to plan.